since less than 1% of people or kids or players would make in this sport, does it make sense to put so much investment into the sport when we don't even know? Nothing is guaranteed that my son is going to play pro. No one knows. And some would argue, like, does it make sense to put all the sacrifice? What would your answer be to that question?
Um, I think it's twofold, really. I mean, firstly, if you don't try, you will never know. And obviously, if that's what your kid wants to do, then and you can help him to achieve his dream, then I think most parents out there would want to do that. Um, but secondary, I think they learn a real lot. Um, it's the life skills they learn are invaluable. They learn how to be disciplined. They learn how to work hard. They learn how to be part of the team. They learn how to be an individual, but then they learn how that they don't want to let people down. So they learn how to become reliable, and all these things kind of the older they get, the more focused and the more important they become.
Yeah, footballer basics here once again for all my listeners, all my parents. Episode 2. I've got an amazing guest here, my friend Steve, with an amazing baller, which most will liken to Harry Kane. A lot to unpack in this episode, so I encourage you to watch from start all the way to the end. You don't want to miss anything out because this man here has got a wealth of experience to share. And without further ado, I'll pass it on. And yeah, Steve, if you just like to introduce yourself and just a brief intro about your son and how old is he, where he's currently playing at, and then we'll just unpack from there.
Hi, yeah. My name's Steve Taylor, and I'm Buddy Taylor's dad, and he's under 11 academy player for Leighton Orient.
Amazing. Yeah. So for my listeners and parents out there, I know Buddy, him and my son, they've played field competitions together and also played in the same academy as well for a while. So
Yep.
yeah, amazing player. So we start the ball rolling now. So Steve, the Buddy, I see him like he's got so much energy. Like this kid
Yep.
just want to play. Even when I see him at Will session, for example, or whilst it was at West Ham,
Mm.
the Buddy grow up around football.
No, I think it's a football household. So yeah, I was I played a bit back in the day. Mum's a Charlton season ticket holder. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, he's obviously he's grown up around football. We always got football on the telly. Yeah, we are. I guess you'd say we are a football household, really. Yeah,
yeah. So
Mum
you
loves to
mentioned
watch
mom.
it.
So do you support Charlton as well? Does Buddy support Charlton as well? Or you guys have all got your own separate teams?
No, well, I'm a Palace fan, and yeah,
Ah,
Buddy's followed in Dad's footsteps, and yeah, he supports Palace, but he's got a real love for Charlton as well, so that's for sure.
well, that's amazing. Mom, season ticket holder. I think it helps a lot as well when both partners love football. My wife done. She would come and watch sometimes Nathan when he's playing, but for
Yeah,
parents that know, like if we go on an away game, 10, 15 minutes
mm,
she's watching and she's gone to the car to
yeah,
chill or
yeah.
just relax. She just can't. It's a pain for her. So to have that balance, it's amazing. So at what point then do you realize that? I think my son is a baller. Like I think he's got something. At what point do you realize that Buddy has got something? Compared to most kids. Every parent wants their kids to play football now, but some kids
Mm,
don't really have that talent. But at what
yeah.
point do you actually realize that? Oh, okay, I think he's got something. He's got chance.
Um, Difficult question, really, but I think I realised he had something when he used to go to the little sessions with AW over in Erith, and when he was really small, maybe 5 or 6, something along them lines. And he had some really good battles with Zach from um, little Zach from West Ham.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, them two kind of they stood out in those um, sessions, and then from there, I just just and then he just grew really um, from there, I guess. But yeah, quite a young age, I'd say he had something, but what that something was going to be or turn into was like that was like, yet to be seen. So yeah, but
So for
quite
you
young.
then, I've seen you like you're very skillful and you've got all these tricks and stuff like that. But would you say when Buddy was growing up, yeah, I see you at the session. I'm like, but this man, you should be doing freestyle, man, full stuff, rip side, But
Yeah.
were you doing stuff like that with Buddy maybe when he was like 3, 4? Were you doing any sort of unstructured sort of football session with him? Or was it just when
Um.
you went to that session, you just realized like he's got something?
Well, I think every parent probably does that thing, don't they? In the back garden or over the park with their kids. So I didn't obviously they're so young. We didn't really structure much, but they just at that age they just want to score goals and do one-on-ones. But the biggest thing that I did was I always made him. I worked out from a young age that he was right-footed, and what I did, I never let him score a goal on his right foot. I always, like if we was just doing a little thing in the garden, I would always show him to the left side um, and just encouraged him to use his left foot. And I would always kind of, from a young age, allow him to score goals, but on his on his weaker foot to try and encourage um, the use of his left foot. So yeah,
So what these
that was
was
what I
it,
did.
did this happen then after you had the session with AW where you realized, okay, I think he's got something. Now I can just in a very unstructured way start
Yeah.
helping him develop, using his left foot, or was it just something that you just started doing with him, just having fun with him just from when he was very young?
Yeah, just from when he was really young, to be honest, just sort of in the back garden, even before the AW sessions, and just when you're playing in the garden, it's just a good habit. I think it's a real big skill, and in football now, obviously the game's moved on, so you've obviously got to be able to use both
Yeah,
feet.
use both
It's a
feet.
massive advantage, I think now. So I just made it kind of that way. I just done that for him. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So then
just in the back garden.
am I right to assume then to say, just like every dad would, when you have a son, at the
Mm.
back of your mind, especially if you've played the game, you
Yeah,
just naturally just want your son to play football as well. So even if at the time you haven't actually realized that he's going to be where he is now and doing all the stuff he's doing
mm.
now, at the back of
Yeah,
your mind, you're probably just maybe seeing yourself in your very young child to say, you know what, let's just start practicing, use your left foot, learning some few skills here and there, and maybe we just never know where it would end up. And yeah, that's similar to myself as well. But with Nathan, it wasn't more with football. It
mm.
was more with the drums. We're a very musical family,
Yeah,
and I play the drums and I play the piano and guitar. And from 6, 7 months, Nathan
mm.
can play to a song, start to finish. So I thought that was what it was, and I invested in a drum kit, which we still have up until this day.
yeah,
And when we moved to Dartford, then football started, and obviously we had some sort of clues from the school and stuff. But I thought
yeah,
it was drums. So similar to yourself, you're so into
mm.
football, doing football stuff. With Nate at the time it was drums, and I'll do every drumming stuff with him. And then yeah. So okay. So moving on then. So could you just walk me through then the transition from how Body moved from grassroots,
Yeah,
to where it is now? I know, especially for my parents and listeners out there, probably in America or everywhere across the world could be different. But in the UK, when a child is between the age of 5 to like 8,
yeah,
traditionally you'll probably be at a grassroots club, maybe flirting with different academic clubs. And then before under 9, if the kid is what they're looking for, then the kid would sign a pro
mm.
contract with the academy. So with Buddy, if you don't mind just sharing, what was that transition like? What age did Buddy start playing grassroots football up until where he is now?
Yeah, so he started the grassroots shortly after the AW. After the sessions at AW, there was kind of some teams got put together. I think it was 3 or 4 teams for. They worked with Cray Wanderers at the time, and yeah, so the story was kind of there was about I think there was about 5 or 6 lads that didn't have a team to go to, but were coaching coached by AW, and then I volunteered to take the team because if I didn't do that, I was going to have to find him a team. So I thought, well, yeah, give something back to football. And then then he started playing with Cray Wanderers, and then we had the twins join, Frank and Fred and Daryl, and he helped me, and Daryl became my assistant manager, and we kind of grew the team. Got a goalkeeper in, Luca, and then we got Buddy's cousin Harry to come and play, and we formed a good little side. Had some success, and then he started. Then he went to play for TFA, which is something that a good friend of mine Ross put him into, and that really helped him because their model at the time was they would piece in some grassroots lads with some academy boys, and it was kind of at that point when you could kind of see where he was in regards to the academy lads.
Yeah,
Um, so but probably looking back now, um, if I was or what I did, I kind of because I played at a sensible level, and I kind of taught him probably a bit too properly from a young age. And because I think academies from the age of say 6 to 10, they're all about this being an individual, standing on the ball, dribbling. Um, they don't care about if you give the ball away. That they all them kind of things that they encourage from a young age because it helps you um, with one-to-ones, and they're big on
yeah,
that. I kind of moved Buddy forward, but probably too early. So looking back, if I had the time again, and I wanted to get him into an academy earlier, um, then I would have maybe focused a bit more on the other side of the game. So that's just something that I picked up. But now, like fast forward in the tape, I think it stands him in probably in better stead, but just for his particular position. I mean, that might not work everywhere, but for the type of player that he's turned into and his particular position, it's probably worked out for the best. But that was a bit more luck than judgment, I've got to say.
yeah. So for Body then, whilst he was a grassroots,
Yeah.
were different scouts from different clubs coming to like entice you guys to come over to say, so I'll say for example now with my son when he was playing,
Mm.
pretty much all the clubs from London kept like,
Yeah.
can you come in? Could you come in? Because yeah, you're playing for a grassroots club, but you can't commit to one academy because, like you rightly said, you're teaching him in a certain way of how to play,
Mm.
and the way you're seeing the game or the way he sees the game have to align with whatever club you want to settle with. So did Buddy follow the tradition route where from 8 under 9s, straight in, sign for a pro club? If you just want to just elaborate a little bit more to our listeners, how did Buddy's journey
Yeah.
go from grassroots to academy?
So yeah, he's still playing grassroots, and he missed the boat, the big signing boat. I think it's under nines, from 8s to
Yeah,
9. So he wasn't quite ready then, and again he wasn't maybe of the same profile, or he didn't play how they perhaps wanted children to or kids to play at that young age. So um, yeah, so then he went away for a bit, had another season, and then at sort of the end of under nines, then the interest started to come. He played some games for TFA around about that point, and then he got asked to come in by Crystal Palace. So he's playing the showcase games there. Done that for about 6 months. He went into Spurs, um, where he was in a development group there for a similar amount of time. Um, and then yeah, he then played a tournament again for TFA over in East London, and he had a good tournament. I think they got to the final, and he scored a lot of goals. As probably what he's renowned for. Um, and then he got asked to come on trial at West Ham, and that was obviously when we saw you guys. And that was kind of his first sort of experience of that academy. You know what it's like, the consistency of it, the, the quality of the players, the intensity. That was one thing he probably struggled with at that stage, but it was all part of his learning, to be honest. And yeah, when he obviously he never made it at West Ham. Um, and controlling his emotions was another thing that we had to go away and work on. So we worked on that. But one thing that every club he's ever been to has always said is that he's got a real natural ability to score goals. And football's about opinions, as we know, but I think
Yeah.
strikers can become kind of a solo sport. You know, if you're scoring goals, then you're always, your name's always going to be in the hat, um, because it's the most difficult thing in football to do. So, um, but yeah, going into West Ham, some fantastic experiences that he took away from there, playing with some really quality players, playing on some nice stadiums. Played at Birmingham, played at Leicester, played against some big clubs, and yeah. So then he didn't make it at West Ham. Then what did he do then? He then come back out, and he went to Dynamo, which was he went on trial for Dynamo, which was really good. Done a trial at Dynamo, and he got asked to play up a year. So that was really good, to be honest. And Dynamo is a fantastic club, and it's really good for bringing A, the younger lads on, and B, for kids that are in and around that academy level, trying to get them signed. I think since Buddy's in his team that he was playing now, I think three of them have signed from his group. So
Wow.
yeah, so one Palace, one Brighton, and Bud's at Orient. So um, yeah, they're really good, and it was kind of the closest thing that to an academy in the way that it was run. It wasn't run by parents,
Yeah.
although parents did help. It's run by coaches, paid coaches. All the kids have the same kit. It's very very professional in what they do, and playing up for Buddy was good because in his own age group, he's quite strong, but a year it makes a big difference. So when you're playing up a year, the physical advantages they drop. Everyone's quicker, everyone's bigger, everyone's stronger, and it
Yeah.
was good because it made him think like, what now? I'm losing a bit of those advantages. So yeah, he had some time at Dynamo, and then he went into Brentford, um, and originally we quite liked that, the thought of that, because their academy closed and it reopened, and they had a brand new facility being built, which is fantastic. Um, And again, being brutally honest, I thought, in the group that he was there, I thought he was high up in that group. But yet again, he got another knockback. And that was a tough one for him because kids are smart. They know that they see themselves where they think they are. And
Yeah.
that one, the West Ham one was, his first one. But after that, he gone away, worked hard. He got himself a bit fitter. And then he went into Brentford, and they had a different. And you're right in what you're saying about clubs and are they suited to you? Is your child suited there? So they wanted Buddy to kind of play 5 positions when
Wow.
probably he's probably he's good at 2. So first 4 weeks I think he played centre back, right back, centre mid, and on the wing. Yeah. So and a small amount of time in his more natural position as a striker. But even as a striker, he likes to play as a 1. Sometimes they're playing him as a 2, so it was more like a winger striker. So he wasn't getting that time in to show what he was capable of in that sort of central role. And then we had a sit down, and we kind of, we asked whether we would get some time, and in all fairness, they gave him some time. And then he kind of excelled. So that was good. In the next 4 weeks, he really done well, and he scored a lot of goals as he does. Made some assists, worked hard, and kind of he never made it there as well. So that was a real tough one for him, to be honest, because as I say, that people thought that, or Buddy thought that he was high up in that group.
Yeah.
And the last thing they said to him was, which is a little bit ironic, they said, "We'll probably regret this decision, and you'll definitely sign somewhere else. You're ready for academy football, but we can't offer you a pathway." That was a little strange, but that was the main reason they said. And you'll probably come and sign someone else and score goals against us. And they were right. So about 3 weeks ago, when Buddy played them for Orient, he scored a hat-trick against them. So it's a little bittersweet moment there for him. Yeah. Yeah.
It's nutty, but that's good nutty.
Yeah, and I think one of his celebrations was like,
Call me back.
all over them. Yeah. So I think that just kind of come out. There's a lot of them, as you can imagine. He was so hyped for that game. He was
Yeah.
So that was his that's been his journey. And then he went into to Orient, and he played a showcase game against the development team. Played the main team, and they done well against them, to be fair. But at that time Orient were kind of in a little bit of a disarray because they'd sold 2 players, one to Arsenal and one to Chelsea. So and obviously them lads were good players. So they was kind of a little bit in disarray, and the development team was 3-0 up after 20 minutes. So it was a bit of a shock for everyone, to be honest. And I think Bud scored. I think I can't remember, 1 or 2, but he definitely scored and was playing really well. And then after that, another kind of week went by, and then they asked him to go in on trial at Orient. That was when he went on trial there.
Amazing. So I think just for my parents and for the listeners listening, you can see that no one size fits all. body story from Palace to Tottenham to West Ham to Brentford, and then now he's at Leighton Orient. Sometimes this could be your child's pathway. But in my own opinion, kids that have had some sort of rejection have stronger mentality because they've been there, they know what it feels like, and for them to recover from that and bounce back, make them stronger, But when a perceived player that might be called star boy of the group, from underage, you're straight into the academy, they pick you for anything, for everything. A point in time would come. I've played the game, right? So I know a point in
Mm.
time would come where you're not the favorite anymore. And
Mm.
this is where some kids can't manage it. They can't
Yeah,
handle it. Or the kid might even get released. Yeah, he's a star boy under age to 12, 13, and get released. And they just can't comprehend that because they've never tasted rejection before. So
yeah,
just to my parents out there, your child might have gone through one trial, you can or two or three or four. You are not alone. You can hear from Mr. Steve here with his amazing bowler, which most will liken to Harry Kane. And I think Brentford, I said the same when West Ham let him go. And I said, I think they made a mistake because I see him and I just think about Harry Kane. But I'm pleased and I'm glad that he's somewhere now where you guys are happy. He's smashing it, and the way he sees the game, everything lines up. And like you said, Leighton Orient sold to players already. They're under 10, one to Chelsea, one to Arsenal. Who knows? He might be going to Man City, he might be going to Chelsea, whatever. We just never know. But the most important thing is it's not about the badge. He's where he's being catered for and he's developing. So that's the goal. So now, what happened then? What was the turning point? What would you say was the turning point that changed everything for Buddy to now getting this contract at Leighton Orient? Because he's been at Palace, he's been at Tottenham, he's been at West Ham, he's been at Brentford. Yes, players develop at various stages, but what do you think, you know, was a turning point for him that got him to where he is now? What would you say? What could you say to
um,
that?
it's just been his consistency and his dedication. Um, he works hard. Probably like a lot of guys and a lot of lads out there. He's working hard, and another thing I think that he was able to, um, as he got older, he kind of just he accepted that people were trying to help him rather than kind of tell him off, because he's quite a strong character. He's quite emotional. Um, Sometimes that would come out sideways, but I think the turning point um, was when he realised, yeah, everyone's here there's good people around me. Like, sometimes he found it difficult to take instructions from myself, his coaches at goal getters, anyone really that managed him. But once he realised that actually, yeah, everyone wants to help me. There's no one there that really
Mm,
wants to anything bad for me to happen. And when that kind of that switch flicked, that was when I think, was the real turning point, because his development went up. And obviously, yeah, the dedication and the consistency. Once he realised that he's got to work hard. And I think, yeah, just touching on that, I think from him signing, one thing, I think when you sign from grassroots and you you realise that there's a whole group of lads behind you that are working hard to get to where you are. So as you say, just because you're in that academy format, yeah, it doesn't mean that you'll always be there. But what it does as a grassroots guy going in, it just, it reminds you that, there's a lot of guys out there that are, really trying to to, to sign themselves, and they're working really hard. So whereas, like, if you're in the bubble, sometimes you might not see that. Um,
yeah.
and that's one of the biggest things I think he's recognised as well. So he recognises that he's got to keep working hard, because there's always someone looking to take your place.
100%. That's the game from grassroots, even whilst you're at academy.
Mm,
People would say dog eat dog. I approach it differently. I'm not killing my child to say you must play football, by all means. but I know he's got the talent and the ability, and I'm just nurturing it just like everywhere any right parents would do. If my son was good at when I noticed he was good at drumming, I did the sensible thing. I invested over 3 grand buying him a drum kit just so he can play at home and enjoy and improve. I got him a
Yeah.
music tutor and stuff, thinking it was drums, but now it's football. So it just makes so much sense. But now, like you mentioned, the competition is fierce now. It's getting tougher now. Kids at 2 are already having structured sessions. It's crazy out there. So what would you say then that Buddy does or he did differently compared to other kids? Because now, when I mean compared to other kids, whilst he was at the development center Leighton, Orient, before he went into the main group, there probably would have been 10 kids there or 12 kids or 15 kids that have been at that development center for 5, 6, 8 months. But he
Mm.
just got in there in few weeks. He's been progressed up to go and play up with the elite group. So what would you say you think he did that was different compared to most 99% of kids that may never even have the chance to even get into an academy?
Um, his goal scoring. He's just a very natural goal scorer. He scores all different types of goals, and probably when you're younger, it's not as important. But as you start to get older and people recognise it, then I think that's the thing. Going back to the time when we working on his left foot, he scored a lot of left foot goals, and he still does. His ball striking is really, really good, and over the years,
I've
he's
seen
kind of
some I've seen
say
some
again.
clips, man. I've seen some silly goals, man. I've seen some silly goals, very silly goals, man. So yeah, parents, maybe at the end of this video, I'll put Buddy's dad's link in the description. You need to see some of these goals. They're not friendly goals. They're goals to kill. But yeah, sorry to cut you short there.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So and so yeah, I think and all the clubs, every club that he's ever been to, have all said the same thing. They said he's just a very natural goal scorer. And to be fair, I was kind of all. I mean, I played fullback, so I was quite a good striker of the ball, but in a different way. Um, maybe that apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So yeah, but his ability to score goals, his desire to score goals, yeah, I think that's what sets him apart from um, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of other boys.
So
Yeah.
like we know, that's amazing. And for parents listening, like your child have to have something. And parents make a lot of parents that I see and I speak to make the mistake of they want their kid to be everything. And for parents listening so far, you could hear Steve say about his son, his goal scoring ability, his goal scoring ability, his goal scoring ability. Every child has something that they're special at, that they're good at. You know, enhance your good traits, your skill, the one that like this one, if I close my eye, I know where the goal is. How can I score more goals now? Maybe with my head, with my chest, with my inside, with volleys. Keep improving on that because that's the thing that you're good at. But mistakes I see a lot of parents make is, oh, they see this player scoring goals, but they see, oh, that player, he's a good dribbler. He can dribble 5 players and score a goal. Or that player is good at free kick. Or that player is good at pinging the pass. And then they want the child to be all round. I'm not saying it's wrong, but for me, I don't compare my son with any other kid. But
Mm.
I just focus more on his strengths, and I see whatever weaknesses that I think, okay, you need to improve in this. I take one at a time. But I'm not looking at him and, oh, Nathan, look at how that kid is scanning. He's scanning 3 times every 3 seconds. I want you to scan 3 times every 3 seconds. Will he scan 3 times every 3 seconds? I don't know yet, but I know what he's good at, and I encourage him to showcase that. So, just for the parents listening, the takeaway here is also is whatever your child is good at, just encourage it, nurture it, and improve on it. Like you said, his left foot. He was good at his right, but I want him to be good at his left. Now he's scoring more goals with his left, you know, which is amazing. But if you get carried away when you're saying, oh no, I want him now to start pinging passes now from right to left or throwing Travella passes or doing rainbow flicks or any of these things during the game because some other kid is doing it, maybe he probably wouldn't have had the success that he had. So that's amazing and an amazing point there. And like we know, talent is not enough in this game. You've played the game. I've played the game. Your son is currently playing the game. And I know sometimes I've seen mom take him to session or bring him to a game whilst you're away and stuff like that. So what sacrifice just for the parents to be aware that this football thing is not about just my child is signed now, he's in an academy and voila, that's it. He's playing and he's playing for Man City or Chelsea or Real Madrid. It's There's more to it than people know. So for us that I need, and from your experience, what sacrifice have you and your family had to make just because Buddy plays football? I've seen grandma and grandpa sometimes come to watch as well and support. So it's not just a dad thing or a mom thing. We need that family support as well to ensure that the child's dream comes to fruition. So what sacrifices have you guys had to pay? Just so that Buddy can carry on with his football endeavors.
So I mean, yeah. So we're up in the mornings, doing some sessions, bits and pieces in the morning. So one of us is up, or both of us. So it's an earlier morning, I guess you'd say. And maybe not all the time. Sometimes I have to go to work, but yeah, there'll be mornings where we're up and he's working in the morning. So that's one. And then obviously it's getting him to all the training and all the sessions. It's the financial side of it as well. So he's still doing his group sessions and his one-to-one sessions with goal getters and his coaches, Coach Will. So there's the financial side of it. As an example, last week he got asked to play up with the under 12s in a tournament in Cambridge. So to give him the best opportunity, I think it was an 8:15 meet. So we left. Yeah, so we left Friday evening. We stayed in a hotel. So yeah, Granddad's here looking after the dog for us. So Granddad's making the sacrifice. So there's a financial sacrifice of us being in Cambridge, and then the next day it was Swindon away. So we then travelled from Cambridge to Swindon. Yeah, that was really testing me that week. And then again, it was another early meet. So we've done the same thing. We stayed in a hotel. All for his benefit, because these opportunities for him to go and play up is a really good thing. So we made that happen for him. So yeah, and then it's other stuff, all the boots that you constantly you're buying, there's more to it than just taking him to training, and getting him to games. So yes, yeah, it's the time from work, so we have to be at training at like 5 or 5:30. So between me, mum, or granddad, one of us is getting him there, or sometimes we're coming from different. Sometimes I'm coming from a different part of the country, so I'm racing back just to watch him train, just to kind of keep giving him the support, which I think is important. And mum's the same. Yeah, she runs a karate club on Tuesday, so she doesn't do many Tuesday training sessions, but Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays, generally she's on the sidelines as well. So yeah, that's the sacrifices really.
That's packed. But some parents would say, like, since less than 1% of people or kids or players would make in this sport, does it make sense to put so much investment into the sport when we don't even know? Nothing is guaranteed that my son is going to play pro. No one knows. And some would argue, like, does it make sense to put all the sacrifice? What would your answer be to that question?
I think it's twofold really. I mean, firstly, if you don't try, you will never know. And obviously, if it's if that's what your kid wants to do, then and you can help him to achieve his dream, then I think most parents out there would want to do that. But secondary, I think they learn a real lot. Um, it's the life skills they learn are invaluable. They learn how to be disciplined. They learn how to work hard. They learn how to be part of the team. They learn how to be an individual, but then they learn how they don't want to let people down. So they learn how to become reliable, and all these things kind of the older they get, the more focused and the more important they become. Um, and I think that the life skills that they take away from being in this environment, and that they're around like-minded kids. Um, they get to see all different. Buddy gets to meet all kids from different areas, and the friends he's made and the people he knows in football um, is vast because of where he's been into a few clubs, the development centres. He's played up at grassroots, so he's like it's his network and his friends and the people that he's met through football is really good.
And like you said, just to add to that as well, I did a video just yesterday, which I'm still processing to put online, is learn to fail, right? Where else would you pay to bounce back from failure? Like putting football aside, like you hear about people committing suicide, people in depression, and sometimes when you speak to some of these people, is they just don't have that resilience. They just can't bounce back. Maybe bounce back from a setback. Maybe they just lose a business or something in workout or stuff like that. There's no resilience to bounce back. And where else would you help a child start developing this life skill if the child is not in the sport? So that's how I look at it. And that's what I say to parents. Like, you might think it's just investment to football, but even if the kid don't end up playing, your life skill that child will be coming out with, like I'm saying, winning mentality. You don't want to lose. You don't know. You fail, you bounce back. You're not quick. You're not a quitter. And how much would you pay to have that kind of mindset? Like, it's not something that money can just go and buy. It's something that is accumulated over time. So you just literally hit the hammer on the head there. And coming back to something you said, whilst you were speaking on this point, was you do some one-to-one sessions with him, and he's got like personal coaches that do stuff. Some of these coaches I know as well, they're good friends. But some clubs and also parents would argue, like, I listened to a podcast a few weeks ago, and the parent was saying, no, his son is currently playing for a Premier League club, at the moment, 19 years old at Fulham, and he was on this podcast and he said, no, my son never did anything outside. It was just the training. Me personally, it's hard to believe. I know it's easy to see on camera, and it might be true in a way to say he never did anything, but at home, maybe dad has some uncles or dad has some experience on how to help him with certain things at home, and they've got this inside guarding where he can practice and improve. But what would your take be to parents saying, no, don't do extras? What the club is doing is enough, to get the child to where the child. Do you agree with that statement, by the way?
Uh, no, not really. I think that it's the harder you work, the more you do. It's just a law of averages. It's just that the more of something you do, the better you're going to get at it. I think what's key in all of it is the hardest point is to recognise what you want to do better at, and looking at your kid kind of not as a parent but as a, in a, objectively. So which is sometimes tough because everyone loves their kid, and you think, oh, he's my kid, he's great at this, he's great at that. But if you can separate from that in the football world and go, yeah, he's good. Like Buddy as an example, um, like the way he moved off the ball wasn't wasn't great when he was younger. They have growth spurts. His legs were long. So yeah, we worked on that stuff a lot, and now he's a lot better. And now, and in fact, he's really good now. So Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be kids out there that are just naturally gifted, naturally talented, and they're just going to go all the way to the top. Kind of, they'll breeze through. That will be a thing. There's some kids that that are that talented. So if that works for them, and they combine everything, and that's their journey, then that's fair on them. But I think you've got to know your own kid really. And Buddy's one of them that he thrives off the work. So just an example, if we give him like a 2 or couple of week break, sort of off season, 2 or 3 week break, then he'll get into the habit of thinking, oh, this is okay. Like, yeah, I quite like doing this. I like doing a bit more with my friends. I like playing my computer a bit more. And then he gets into that mindset, and then to drag him back into, remember what you want to be can sometimes be tough. But when he gets back into that mindset, then he thrives again. So he really enjoys it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think in honesty, for Buddy, the more work he does, the better he is without burning him out. It's like we've worked out a balance now where you don't want to burn him out, because especially for the Sunday, so you don't want to work too hard all week, get to Sunday where you're kind of, that's the main judgment day, and then you're burnt out from what you've done from the rest of the day. So we try and give him a little bit of rest time closer to the games as best that we can, but still, yeah, still doing a lot of work.
Yeah. So do you think, obviously, there's always something to work on? Ronaldo, Messi, these guys, they still train every single day. There's always something to improve. So there will never be a finished product. There's always going to be something extra. But do you think Body would be where he is now without you having to take on those extra sessions?
No, no, definitely not. If I look back from when he wasn't doing them to when he started to do them to where he's now, then no, definitely not. He wouldn't be nowhere near
So,
as
so
agile.
what would you say are the key? Yeah. Oh, sorry
Yeah,
to
so
cut you short. So what would you
yeah.
say were the key things, for his age that you were really investing more time and resources into to help him? Obviously, like for myself, my son to this day, maybe because of the sort of team, the way I see the game, I love kids that are technical. I just looks nice on the ball, how you control the ball, how you dribble with the ball, how you pass. There's a different way of passing. Some kids can pass. It just the pass just feels different. So what would you say are the kind of things that you get to do with him, with the coaches, one-to-one coaches, to get him to, from where he used to be before grassroots to where he is now?
Um, it's a lot of stuff with the ball, buddy. I think it's a lot of manoeuvring the ball, a lot of touches on the ball. Um, so it's all kind of, it's all been around ball work really. That and his agility and the way he moves, um, a bit with his flexibility. So yeah, again, all kids are different. Some people say to me, "Oh, you're still doing one-on-ones?" Like he's 11. It's like, yeah, he needs it. He's like, he's not as clean as he could be. His touch isn't always as good as what it could be. So yeah, we're still working in that environment. And they're like, yeah, but the game's moved on. Like it's nine-a-side. But for Buddy, he's got all of those kind of qualities that you you kind of need. He gets his body and he knows how to use his body well. He's strong. He can hold the ball up well. What we're trying to develop with him now is keeping the ball a little bit closer to him, um, when it comes in, and working on a little bit of his dribbling. Um, so yeah, again, a lot of that is still one-on-one stuff. Now, some other kids that get coached that from earlier, they might be more advanced, and it might be that they need more group sessions because they need a bit more physical contact. They need, but for Buddy, he still needs a lot of start time on the ball, especially playing striker, you don't always get that as much. So we kind of try and not substitute it in with his one-on-ones.
Yeah, that's the thing. I know it's not easy for parents and it's expensive, to get these coaches. But again, you can have a talent and the talent has to be developed some way, and you'd see a kid that is good, but over a period of time, you just see other kids overtake. And when you speak to these parents, I think one time I had this about an hour and a half hours with Lewis Kelly. His
Mm.
mom did this event and I was there with him and he was just like, yeah, man, I keep seeing you walking around. Come, let's have a chat. So I was just asking him loads of questions. And one of the stuff that he just kept re-emphasizing was, I wish I did more technical work, more ball mastery work. That was what he was saying. It was like, yeah, I know I'm okay, but I wish I invested more time. So he said, how old is your son? I said, he's 9 now. He's going to be 10 soon. It's like, from now to when he's like 13, before that growth spurt hits, just know how to do any kind of ball mastery exercise. Just master it, because when you get older, a lot of those technique will fade because the body
Mm.
might not be able to manipulate the ball in that way when the way they used to do when they were younger. But you'll still have a lot of carryovers that can sustain you, way and beyond. So it makes so much sense. But for you now, and this part of this movement and why I'm doing this podcast and taking this stuff out there, because now there are a lot of coaches out there now. Everybody's a coach now. It's easy to just get the coaching badge and become a coach. But then for some of the kids that come to me, they would say, oh, I've been training with this coach for XYZ period of time. But then when I do an initial assessment on the child, it breaks my heart that, okay, this parent has been consistent with this coach, but the coach has been unable to deliver the basic fundamental. The kid can't execute on the basic fundamentals. So for you, you've been with the go getters, which I know, So for all my listeners out there, they're nice guys there, and I like the work that they're doing. But what would you say? Obviously, before you connected with the go getters, you probably had an idea of other so-called coaches. What were the qualities that you were? What are the qualities you look for in a coach to say, what, like you said earlier in the episode in this podcast, was sometimes my chap's body don't take on what I tell him, but if someone else tells him, sometimes he unbuds. But for you now to trust these guys now to deliver the right information and training to support your child, what are the things? How did you get to making that decision to say, what, I trust these coaches? How did you find these coaches? And what are the things that you were looking for to now say, what, I can entrust my child with you guys? Just so I can help parents out there, because a lot of parents are wasting a lot of money with these so-called coaches. They go there for an hour session, the kid is doing kick-ups for 30 minutes, shooting to the net for 30 minutes, and that's the session done. The kid hasn't learned anything, and I'm just trying to advocate to parents. There's still good coaches out there. Yes, they might cost a little bit more, but this is how you can find them. So, from your own point of view, what would you say to that?
Um, I think it's. I think first of all, I think it's being able to. I mean, I look at a coach, and if they can't do a demonstration of what they're asking the kids to do, then yeah, that would be a red flag for me. That's just my,
Amazing.
my personal. If there was a story once where they was asked to they was asked to clip the ball over a little five-a-side goal, and yeah, Brady had to go and do the demo. I think he was 9 because the coach that was there doing it couldn't use his weak foot, so he's going, yeah, clip the ball over the goal, blah blah blah. I think he took about 4 goes at it, and yeah, then Buddy's like, do you want me to do the demo? He's like, yeah, go on, buddy, do the demo. So yeah, yeah, so yeah, I think just having an eye for a coach that can do the demonstrations, and probably the older they get, um, the more the more important that will become. And secondly, I think so. Buddy has also done some sessions, and I still do a session a week with this guy, but a guy called Chris Dixon, ex-pro, played for Charlton and played all over the world. I think Cyprus, China. Um,
Right.
so a coach like that, where he's played the game at the top level and he knows and he knows sometimes you can't coach what you can't feel. So yes, you can read a manual and there's very good coaches out there, but if you haven't been in particular
In the game.
situations, and you
Yeah.
haven't felt what it feels like to, you know, and what I done with Chris and when Buddy was doing his sessions with Chris, or when he does his sessions with Chris, is because Chris is a striker and Buddy's a striker, I try and like I match that up because I thought that was important because Chris has been there and he knows what their moments feel like. Um,
Yeah.
but that was another thing that when I'm looking for a coach, I thought, but probably a bit later on, once you realise what position your child might play, then that's probably a bit more important as they get older. But yeah, so the two things really: can the coach demonstrate what they're asking the child to do, and when they do that, does it look right? Because I think most parents can see, if someone does a step over, does it look right or not? Do they look awkward when they do it? And as I say, as he gets older now, it's working with a guy that's been in the environment and knowing what it feels like and where to go and what just little different techniques, little dark arts. Really, I think that perhaps other coaches who are still very good, they might not understand those dark arts. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, amazing. Honestly, my parents, I hope you're listening because I can't shout enough, you know. And the honest truth is the top coaches, most of them are not like online like that. They don't really have that much social media presence like that because they're busy really honing on helping kids develop. Not about the money. Yes, you pay them for the session, but their goal is to see this kid improve. And it's a shame that now a lot of parents are being misled. They see something on Instagram and they just see the outside cut, inside cut, step over. Some of these coaches, they just do the skills. They don't explain when to apply the skills. Like, there's a time to use the L and the V's. So you're not gonna do that when you're one to one, maybe with the goalkeeper and you're running high speed. No application, but people see all these things and the shiny objects and oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I want my kid to do that. But it might not be that's what your child needs. But again, if the coach can demonstrate and also if the coach has played to some level, it could be a coach that maybe fell out of love in the game at 16. I know some few good coaches, that work for top Cat 1 clubs now, and they stop playing at 16, but they can demonstrate and they can pass on the knowledge that they've been taking along the way to inspire these young kids to get to the level that they got to. It's not about the badge and it's not about how many followers. Is can this person make an impact to my child? So that's a very, very good question there. I know I'm conscious of time and we'll be wrapping up soon. But just to jump into the next question, do you think there's pressure? Obviously, playing grassroots, sometimes there will be a little bit of pressure. Okay, I want my child to win the game or score a goal. But now that body's now in the system now, just a yes or no answer for a start. Do you think there's pressure to you as a parent and to your child just being at an academy?
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely pressure, 100%. It's different pressure from grassroots, but yeah, there's definitely pressure. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
if you would like to just elaborate a little bit on what sort of pressure do you think for you as a parent you experience, and also what sort of pressure body gets as well, just so that parents can understand it's not more about, oh, now my child is sound and yeah, and then you'll be shocked at the end of the season you get that email, sorry, or that meeting. So what sort of pressure do you think you experience since signing for like Leighton Orient, for example?
Well, obviously you've got to be committed to what you're doing. So the pressure for as a family for us to is to get him there and make sure he's got all his kit ready, and he's got his drink, make sure he's eating the right foods, so there's a lot of prep that goes into all of that. As a parent, I think the pressures are you don't want them to miss out on a childhood, but on the flip side of that coin is if you don't take the journey seriously, then you don't know what could have been. So it's a fine line. Um, and from Buddy's perspective, yeah, he's under pressure. He's got his reviews. He gets pressure from his mum and dad. We're probably saying to him, look, we're investing a lot in this son. We're going to homeschool at the end of this year. So yeah, it's tough for him. He's under it as well. He's under pressure from his teammates. He's under pressure from his coaches. From outside. People that know him. Oh, how are you getting on? Even them sort of questions. You might have not done so well. You might have been beat. And for a kid, how'd you get on? Oh, we lost. Like he's thinking, oh yeah, we lost, but so there's all different kinds of pressures that come, and they're just a few of the ones that I can think of now. But yeah, it's a pressure as a family, and it's pressure for Buddy as well, no doubt.
I, yeah, I mean, I'll pretty much say the same, and I think Buddy has that resilience just because of his story from everywhere that he's been. But to be very honest with you, I don't think a lot of parents would have been able to keep up after one or two rejections. Parent and child probably might be like, I don't think this stuff is for me. We give up. So what could you share that would be like the sort of tip or technique that you're able to support your child with, especially when he had those rejections? Because yes, now there's still pressure to keep staying at the academy, but he's had pressure when he goes on trials. I think the trials, the pressure, especially for kids, to know that okay, I've got 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks to get a yes or a no. They built friends for that short period of time, and they might not be able to see these friends anymore. They've worn the kit, and they might not be wearing that kit anymore. They've trained in that, the location. They might not be training in those facilities anymore. It's pressure on his own, but for Buddy to have had a few experiences that didn't work out for him, but still have that resilience to push on to get to where he is now. What were you doing with him? What were you saying to him, or were there books he was reading, or how were you guys able to get him back and up and going?
Mm. I think, yeah, I mean, it was tough. I've got to say, it was hard picking him back up again. But it was something he did himself, and he just backed himself. I just said to him, look, you've got this natural gift, and someone will help you harness it. So, yeah, it was tough for the first few weeks, but I think we just got him back on the horse quickly. We found a new club. We moved on. So I think that was what the most important thing to do for us. That was what we did. But yeah, he's tough. He's a tough lad. I think that comes a lot from his mum's side. She's doesn't tell many people, but she's an ex-England, represented England at karate, black belt. I think
Whoa! What?
six dan black belt. So discipline is a game.
Oh,
Yeah. So
okay.
and yeah, I mean, I had some knockbacks as a kid. I got released by Chelsea. As a kid, I know what that kind of felt like, and then I went to QPR and stayed a long time. But so I'd gone through a little bit of that, and then when I was at QPR, Chelsea tried to rebuy me, which was a bit strange in buying youth team players. Didn't happen a lot back then, more so now. But so yeah, I spoke to him about that, my experiences, and then a lot of other pros' experiences. Obviously Eze and people that as a Palace fan, Elise that he looked up to, and just said, look, not everyone gets it first time, and it'll do you more good not
Yeah.
getting it first time than perhaps it will, you know, getting all the way through and then being 16 and then you don't make it, and a lot of kids they quit. Where maybe if they carried on, who knows? You know, a good, like I say, someone I played with, DJ Campbell, QPR, he
Wow.
was playing for I think Hayes and Yedding, and then his story played FA Cup game, won, got signed, and went from I think Hayes and Yedding to Blackpool in the Prem within 6 or 8 months. So um, yeah,
Wow.
that was kind of the main the main way that we did it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that's the same thing I prepare my son for. Even now,
Mm,
there's an academy, and I stay away from parents when they say, "Oh, your boy is the one of the main boys in the group" and stuff like that. I run away from such conversations
yeah.
because I know how quickly things can change. And every
Mm,
end of the season, before the end of the season, I prepare him for
mm,
release. And I know
mm,
some parents would say, why negativity? But you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So I just say to
yeah.
him, like you've mentioned, look at Ebere Eze, look at how many rejection he's playing for England. Arsenal came back to buy him. Look at Declan
Mm,
Rice. Declan Rice picked him up when he signed for West Ham. So I'd say, look at
yeah. Yeah.
Declan Rice, he got, he got released at Chelsea, and look at where he is now, playing for
Mm,
England and all this stuff. And so on and so forth. So I think it's important for kids to understand that for some kids it's going to be smooth. Like Declan said when I spoke to him the day my son signed, and he said, honestly, some of these players that were being selected to play for England at 14, 15, 16, 17, he never got called to play for any of this age group. But now he's playing for the first team. That's what matters.
yeah.
He's a potential captain as well for England, right?
Mm,
So it just shows that one rejection or two rejection, as far as you believe in your child as a parent, that I think my son has some sort of ability, we
mm,
can keep pushing. But if we give up, then we'll say no to that dream, and we might look back and regret at the choices that we made. So, what would you say, looking back, wrapping things up now?
mm.
We would say you look back and you'll be like, if I was to rewind time, I would do this differently. What's that one thing that you could say if you should go back with Buddy's football journey? You would say, if I could rewind time, I would do it differently.
Um, it's a difficult one. I think, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, the only thing I think really is that if I wanted him to sign for an academy sooner, I would have turned him into someone that dribbled more earlier. Um, how that would have affected him later. Who knows? So yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, you like to think you get everything right. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would have if I'd have known a few more clubs. Like if I'd have known about Dynamo, I might have taken him there from a younger age and not coached him myself um, from such a young age. Because again, that was quite tough because your dad and manager, never a good
Mm,
mix or tough mix can be, especially at
yeah,
like
it's
a young
hard.
age, and especially with someone like Buddy who is quite headstrong. So sometimes he thinks he's getting it right, and perhaps he's not. So yeah, I think just taking him to yeah, perhaps I would have moved him around to some different clubs, different grassroots clubs, um, maybe a bit earlier. I think, and rather than taking taking the team myself and done that really.
Yeah, that's amazing you said that. When Nathan started playing at seven, as soon as he got scouted by Chelsea, I stopped coaching at that foot. That's when I had to travel 45 minutes to junior elite Smith Rowe and Bisaka went to that grassroots club, and that's where I was going. I just stopped coaching because the relationship I have with my child, and I say he's my son first, not a footballer. So
Mm,
I don't want to
yeah,
tarnish that relationship because it's hard sometimes when you see your child struggle. And I
yeah,
had to learn that struggle is part of the game. It's part of the game. And that's number one. Number two, like you said, for my listeners out there, if your child is between the age of 5 to about 9, 10, encourage them to dribble. Don't listen to other parents that would say your child don't pass, da 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 da. The club when a scout comes to scout a group or a club, they're not looking to sign all the players in the group. They're just looking for that one player that stands out within the group, and that's the player that will move on. Obviously, I'm not saying that every child should become a dribbler, but if your child has maybe the speed, the finesse, the touch, and the first instinct of the child is to want to go forward and just be a player, encourage the player to encourage your child to do that a lot. And for some kids, they just naturally want to get the ball and just share the ball and pass the ball around. If that's how your child sees the game, then encourage them to do it, because the most important thing is the instinct of a player makes the player. You don't want, if your child is a dribbler, then you have a coach saying, pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball. Once that instinct is taken away, that player might never be the same. So just like you rightly said, within this age group, it's more about contact time, executing your ball mastery, do the skills, the step overs, the Maradona, even when it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. These are the time to do those things, because when we start getting to the under 11s, under 12, under 13s, it's now a little bit more structured. But if your child haven't had those repetitions of building the technique, they may fall behind. So that's number two takeaway. Let your child spend more time on the ball. And just like you rightly said, pick the right grassroots club. Don't pick a club that's dad running it. No disrespect to the dads, but if the dad has a child in that team is just set up for his child. I don't care what the dad wants to tell me now. Yes, he will love the other kids, but once that kid gets signed, that is gone. You know, so pick a club that is just run as a club by professionals, and you would see your child elevate. So, what would you say is the biggest mistakes you see a lot of parents? Now you're in the academy now, and you've been at both sides. Your son played after on the nines at grassroots, and now he's playing now on the 11s at an academy. What would you say are the biggest mistakes you're seeing parents make up until this day that, like, you look back and you're like, oh no, you shouldn't be doing this? What are the sort of mistakes that you see parents make in this football team? Because I've got a lot to say, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Again, I think it's a lot of parents. Some of their kids will be better players than they were, and how some parents that might not have played at a decent level or played at the game in a high way, they can hinder their child's progress by instilling their opinions on what football should be and what should happen in certain situations. So yeah, that you hear a lot, don't you? Run down the wing, or cross, or this or that. But at certain age, that child might make a better decision than their parent. And the amount of times
Facts.
I've processed it with Buddy, where I've gone, oh, shoot, shoot, shoot. And then he cuts the ball from his right foot back to his left foot and sells a defender and then goes and scores. I wasn't processing that like that, because I'm a fullback at the end of the day. So, I'm like,
Yeah.
if I had an opportunity to shoot, generally I would shoot, because I had less time in the penalty area, though. So I wouldn't necessarily be shouting those instructions. I'd be thinking them in my head. But some parents, I think, the biggest mistake I see is, what the information that the parents give to the child, A, during the games, and even B, after the game. So that can also be a hindrance, where they'll say, do this or do that, but what will right, apart from that they're your kid, have you got to give them that information? Where's the level of understanding there? So, like, getting to sort of now, like, some kids say they'll already be playing at a better level than their parents did, and
Facts.
they'll already have a better understanding of football at sort of an age where Buddy is now 11, or 12. All of a sudden, these kids are becoming tactically aware. They're technically aware. So yeah, I think it's tough, because you watch football on the TV, you watch a lot of people watch a lot of football, and they're like this, that, or whatever. And if you're not sure, then I'll just say get the help. I think the help's out there. Get the right quality help. Um, One of the best things that come in and being at academy is having the games recorded as well. So if you can get that at a grassroots level as well, I'd say that's a real positive. And yeah, if you can go through the games or find someone to go through the games with you, I think that's been one of the biggest things for Buddy, because we'll have at grassroots level, we'd have a conversation about a certain situation, and he might see that differently to me. But no recording of the game, all of a sudden now we're oaring. I go, oh, do you remember that bit? And he goes, no, I wasn't there, or I wasn't set up like this. And I go, right,
These kids are all the
let's
same.
yeah, let's spend the time. Look, you're here. Look, perhaps if you was
Yeah.
this or that or whatever. And so I think that's a good learning curve, because kids never think that they're not just kids, all footballers. They never think they've done it wrong until someone shows them on on the
That's the
live. So
fastest way to learn. Just watch. I
yeah,
think this generation now, they've got so many tools.
yeah,
When I was playing then, my coach could tell me off about something.
mhm,
I can't even remember, except if it's something that I can remember. But most of the time, I can't picture what the scenario was. And, for some kids like myself and Nathan, we're more visual learners. Like, I
yeah,
learn when I see something. For
mm,
some kid, you could tell the kid, and the kid would just take it. So having this technology now that can record games, it's game changer. I was even speaking to a parent today, and I was saying to him, like, you've got to sit back and just watch the game with the kid and get the kid to study a player, watch the player he's studying, and then watch his game and ask him, what do you think this player would have done if he was in this situation? And that's how you want to think, because we learn from the pros. And it just makes so much sense, because that's the way it goes. But like you rightly said, many parents are experts now, and they're destroying their child. I'm seeing this grassroots or at academy level. They're not giving the right information to the child. Yes, I know it's your child. You mean well to the child, but like you said, if you don't know, just find someone that can support the child, because the information you're giving the child and what the coach is telling the child to do. For example, there's a kid, very good kid. The kid is solid, but dad would see other players, the way they play, and would tell the child, no, I want you to stay on the ball. I want you to stay on the ball. But this kid is not built for that, but he's an amazing player. Like, you need to see this kid to agree with me. But because of this, I believe the kid was released from the academy, because when he loses the ball now, there's no pace to get back there to get the ball back, or when he's trying to dribble one too many players, it just don't. That's not his game. But this is what the dad is asking him to do, and no kid wants to disobey their dad, right? But it's the wrong information. And for me, my first call to action is, how does your child see the game? How did they see the game? If naturally he just wants to go defend, slight tackle, pull a player, like so this aggression, maybe he might be a defender. I'm not saying 100% yes, but encourage him to want to do that. Encourage him, because there's a place for a player like that in the team that can win tackles. There's a place for a player that passes the ball. There's a place for a player to dribble. And parents just look at other kids and they want their kid to do what the other kid is doing, and they miss and they side coach and just like all the other stuff you're saying. So for all my parents listening, don't side coach. If you don't know someone, find a mentor for your child and let that mentor be the person to give your child the right information. So, Mr. Steve, before you get away from here in 60 seconds, I want you to just, with your experience, you've played the game at a high level. You're currently in the system with your son, buddy. you know I just want you to give my parents takeaway, just an advice for parents that have kids with the ambition to go into an academy. What advice would you give them if you had to say, this is what I would do from you, or this is what you should be doing right now? Take it away.
mm. I think what you need to do is look at what type of as your child grows and he gets older, what type of player is he going to be? Is he big? Is he strong? Is he, and you'll see that to start with, and then you can kind of start to realise sort of how how your child's going to play. Is he fast? Is he, is he not so slow? What's his super strength? I think that's the biggest thing. I think harness the super strength. I think a lot of pros, they've all kind of got a super strength, especially the ones at the top level. There's always something that when they look back and you track it back, Harry Kane, he could always shoot and score. And just touching on when you're saying about being a defender, Mark Guillet, another Cray Wanderers lad, he just wanted to defend. He didn't want to do anything else. He just wanted to be a defender. So, yeah, I think whatever it is that your kid is good at, and however he processes football, I'd say harness that talent. Be consistent. Be disciplined. Go through the ups and downs, and the knockbacks, and they will. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I'm a firm believer of that, and Buddy's probably testament to that more than anyone. So yeah, that's the things really. I think just recognizing what type of player my kid will become, and once you kind of work that out, then you can go from there.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Steve. And for all my parents, I hope you've learned a lot from this podcast. Before I get out of here, if you like this hoodie, the Football Dad playbook, I'll leave some links under the description of this video. And yeah, please, thanks so much to Mr. Steve for sharing his experience and unpacking. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll look forward to the next episode. And Footballer Basics here once again. Peace. Thanks, Steve. We'll catch up later.